Welcome back to another edition of the Saturday to Sunday Football Podcast. I am Paul Perdichizzi, and thank you for joining me as always. Our 8-part mini podcast series continues, recapping the 2024 NFL Draft in full detail. If you have missed any of the previous 4 podcasts, we have went through division by division. On the NFC, we started with the NFC East, then the NFC North, followed by the NFC South, and the most recent podcast was the NFC West. These short mini 17 to 22 minute pods, we cover team by team, recapping, overviewing their entire draft hauls from the 2024 NFL Draft. I share my favorite picks, my value picks, my questionable picks, and then rank the teams 1 through 4 in my favorite draft classes from each of the divisions. Tonight up is the AFC East. So let's jump right into it. First up is the Buffalo Bills. They traded back twice in the first round, ended up not having a pick in round 1. Their first pick was the first one of day 2. So in the second round, pick 33 overall, they take Florida State wide receiver Keon Coleman. In the end of the second round, at pick 60, they took Utah safety Cole Bishop. In the third round, at pick 95, they took Duke defensive tackle Dwayne Carter. In the fourth round, at pick 128, they take Kentucky running back Ray Davis. In the fifth round, at 141, they take Georgia offensive lineman Cedric Van Pran Granger. In the fifth round, at 160, they take Washington linebacker Idolaf Ulfolcio. In the fifth round at 168, they took Troy edge Javon Solomon. In the sixth round, they had 2 picks. At 204, they took UCF offensive tackle Tylen Grable. And at 219, they took Penn State cornerback Daquan Hardy. In the seventh round, they ended it with England offensive tackle Travis Clayton from the international program. So, favorite picks for what the Bills did, it's their first and second picks for me. Keon Coleman and Cole Bishop. Keon Coleman was one of my guys at the wide receiver position. I thought he was a borderline round 1, early round 2 wide receiver. I have said his game reminds me much more of T. Higgins or Mike Williams, where I think some people want to pigeonhole him to be a N'Keal Harry or Quentin Johnston. I think Coleman is a lot more to it. I know there's some separation concerns, and people who I respect tremendously, I know the charting doesn't look great in terms of his separation. Some people think his best would be in the big slot, but they're probably going to ask him to play the outside X. I have enough belief in his ability and enough belief in the Bills and Josh Allen that I think they're going to figure out a way to make this work. This is a guy who was a returner and a prolific returner at times at Florida State. He showed the ability to win contested catches, his body skill, his body control and ball skills, ability to adjust and high point, I thought were top notch. So there's a lot to like about Keon Coleman. I like the fit there. He's going to get a chance to play on the outside, and then we'll see. I don't think if he has to play inside at times, Curtis Samuel can do a lot of different things. I don't think Khalil Shakir is a major part of their team long term. So if they realize that his best spot is on the inside at times, then I think they'll move him to the inside and they'll play other guys on the outside. I think Keon Coleman is much more higher priority than a day 3 pick from like 2 years ago in Khalil Shakir. So we'll see how Keon Coleman adapts there. And I also like the Cole Bishop pick. He was a guy that was one of my guys at the safety position. I thought anywhere, mid round 2 to round 3, safeties are always hard to kind of peg their draft stock because, once the ball gets rolling on them, everybody's looking for a different thing from their safeties. It's not a premium position, so we don't usually see many, if any, going round 1. So, but I do like Cole Bishop. Obviously they moved on from guys like Micah Hyde, and they had other guys there that have been there a long time. I think Bishop steps right in and becomes an immediate starter. I think Coleman becomes an immediate starter. Value pick. There were some people that thought Cedric Van Pran Granger could have slipped into the top 100. They get him towards the top of round 5 at pick 141. This is a guy who I think can develop to a starter down the line in terms of the interior offensive line. So I thought that was a good value pick for the Bills. I think my one real questionable decision, besides like maybe nitpicking on some, later round guys, is I don't love the trading with Kansas City. They're your number 1 arch enemy. You allow them to come up and get Xavier Worthy. And listen, maybe the Chiefs would have just stayed there and taken and gotten Xavier Worthy anyway. And that wasn't the guy you were targeting. So you don't care about that. And you picked up some extra, I think you swapped picks. So you moved up and had a second, another pick, in the third round or something, or fourth round, whatever the switch was. I know it was just a pick swap, but whatever it was, you did allow Kansas City to move up and get the fastest wide receiver of all time in terms of the pre-draft process. And they're the team that you can't get over the hump on. So I don't love the trade with Kansas City. One player, I thought Dwayne Carter in the top 100 was close. I had him as more of like a mid-fourth round guy. So he went the end of the third. So I don't think it's a crazy reach or anything. And I think he does got some upside and is an intriguing player. So maybe a slight question on that. Overall, I thought their draft was solid. I don't think it was great. They're going to be towards the bottom of the ranks here in my AFC East, but that's just because I thought teams really did a good job in the AFC East. But I like Coleman. I like Bishop. I like Ray Davis in the fourth round. I think he has a really good complement to James Cook. So I'm kind of interested to see how that duo, kind of shares their backfield duties. I like the Van Pran Granger pick. I like Troy Edge, Javon Solomon as an intriguing, developmental pass rusher there out of Troy. And I really like Daquan Hardy as a guy who's going to be a potential electric return man. So there was things they did there that I really liked. But the way the teams drafted in the AFC East, they're going to be down towards the bottom of my rankings when I share that later on. If we take this to the Miami Dolphins, really big fan of their draft class. Round 1, pick 21, they took Penn State edge Chop Robinson. In round 2, pick 53, they took Houston offensive tackle Patrick Paul. In the 4th round, they took Tennessee running back Jalen Wright. In the 5th round, they took Colorado State edge Muhammad Kamara at pick 158. In the 6th round, they had a pair of picks. At 185, they took Virginia wide receiver Malik Washington. And then also at 198, they took California safety Patrick McMorris. In the 7th round, they took USC wide receiver Taj Washington. Favorite picks. Love the Jalen Wright pick. Love the Malik Washington pick. Speed, speed, speed. Tyreek Hill's not enough. Jalen Waddle's not enough. My guy from last year, Devin A-Chain's not enough. So what do? They go get one of the most explosive running backs in the class. My RB3, who I loved in Jalen Wright, who will probably wait in the wings this year, but then take over for Raheem Mostert once Raheem Mostert moves on. But I love the Jalen Wright pick, even with what they already have there. It's one of my favorite picks. I thought he should have went on round 3, so it's a great value pick as well. Malik Washington, I thought he was going to go top 100. So for him to fall to the 6th round, and then I know they went out recently, and this is why I like letting the dust settle a little bit. Everyone was pegging him in as, he might be an immediate starting, slot wide receiver. Well, that's not happening. They went out and signed Odell Beckham. So it's going to be Odell with, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle as their 3 wide receivers at the top of their depth chart. But I do think it's a 1-year deal for OBJ. I think Malik Washington will be an explosive returner year 1, mix in a little bit on offense, play more if there's an injury. But I think he could emerge there and be a real weapon for that. The way his explosive vertical ability out of the slot, his offensive manufactured touch plays as a returner, you're going to get him in space. Love that pick. I thought it was a great value pick. I thought it was one of my favorite picks. I could have put so many of these favorite picks and value picks that could have overlapped because I really thought Malik Washington was going to be a round 3 pick, and he ends up falling to day 6. Other tremendous value picks, Muhammad Kamara. A lot of people thought he was going top 100. A lot of people, I respect tremendously, had him in that 70 to 100 range. He goes to 158. And then Taj Washington, I thought was going to be around 4, around 5 guy. He's one of the best movers and slot wide receivers, I thought, exclusively in this class. They get him in the 7th round. Another playmaking speed guy who could add a lot. And I just talked about my favorite picks, my value picks. What I didn't talk about was their first 2 picks, Chop Robinson and Patrick Paul. I really like those players. If you really want to nitpick, maybe you could have said they took Chop Robinson. Maybe they should have went offensive line in round 1. And they could have taken a Jordan Morgan or Graham Barden instead of Chop Robinson, and then kind of taken an offensive edge rusher in round 2. But that's kind of nitpicking. Chop Robinson's one of the more explosive pass rushers in this draft class. If we fast forward in 3-4 years and we look at the pass rushers and say, of the guys who went round 1, Jared Verse, Dallas Turner, Chop Robinson, if Sharp Robinson's the best one of the group, I wouldn't be that surprised. He's explosive. Even if he's not a complete player right now, he is explosive in terms of getting after the quarterback. So there's a lot to like about Chop Robinson. Patrick Paul was getting some late buzz before the draft that he might sneak into round 1. So for him to go there, I thought it was tremendous value as well. If we take this to the New England Patriots, they stay at pick 3. They don't take any of the trade bait. They take UNC quarterback Drake May to be their next franchise quarterback. In the second round of pick 37, they take Washington wide receiver Jalen Polk. In the third round of pick 68, they take Penn State tackle guard Caden Wallace. In the fourth round of pick 103, they took Texas A&M offensive guard Layden Robinson. In the fourth round at 110, they took UCF wide receiver Javon Baker. In the sixth round at 180, they took South Carolina quarterback Marcellus Dial. In the sixth round at 193, they took Tennessee quarterback Joe Milton. And then in the seventh round, pick 231, they take Florida State tight end, offensive weapon, Jaheim Bell. Favorite picks, I applaud them for staying there and taking Drake May. I thought he was the clear. I thought it was a big drop after Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels. I think they needed a franchise quarterback. I think Drake May's ceiling is somewhere between Justin Herbert and Josh Allen if he hits. So I think it was the right pick for them. I know he's got development to do, but I really like Drake May. I think he combines what you want: the high-end physical traits, the athleticism, the big arm, the playoff structure, stand tall in the pocket, make every NFL throw. I think there's a lot to like about his game. As long as he gets brought along at the right pace and not thrown to the wolves, I think he's going to be a high-end quarterback in this league. Another one of my favorite picks is Jaheim Bell. I know it's the seventh round, but I really thought he was going to go round 4 or round 5. To me, Jaheim Bell was a better college player than Chig Okonkwo. And Chig Okonkwo, I believe, went in the 4th round. I really like the versatility of Jaheim Bell. You need some running back touches, he can do it. You want some jet sweep stuff, he can do it. Some touch passes, he can do it. Or you line him up, detach, move tight end. Jaheim Bell, really interesting player there. Obviously, they have Hunter Henry, but I think Jaheim Bell could be a guy that's used in a variety of ways and maybe develop into a part of that offense in terms of a versatile chess piece. Other favorite pick, I really like the Javon Baker pick in round 4. He was a guy that had top 100 talent, but obviously he fell a little bit for some other stuff. But I think Javon Baker's got a real chance there to develop into a starter. So he's a guy that I thought was a good value pick there. So a lot to like about Javon Baker in the 4th round there. If he would have won the 3rd round, nobody would have been surprised. I already talked about Jaheim Bell. I thought he should have went round 4, round 5. So I thought that was good value as well. Questionable picks. I think the most questionable pick was Caden Wallace at pick 68 overall. He was not a guy that a lot of people had as a definitive top 100 guy. And for him to go 68, I mean, that's almost round 2. That's top of the round 3. So I thought Caden Wallace was a little bit of a reach. I was surprised that they went in that direction. There were better offensive linemen. I would have rather gotten a guy like Christian Haynes and just said, yeah, he's not a tackle, but he's a guy who could be a plug-and-play offensive guard and be a starter. Cooper Beebe, somebody like that, I would have preferred over Caden Wallace, who I think is more developmental. We'll see if he pans into a starter at the tackle position for them. And then Jalen Polk. Listen, I think Jalen Polk's a really good receiver. I think he's a solid receiver. 37 was really early. So for the Patriots, I think they wanted a guy that offered some reliability and safety to pair with Drake May, and I think they see that for Jalen Polk. And the fact that they were able to double dip and get Javon Baker later with a little bbit more ceiling to his game maybe. But I do think top of the 2nd round, there were some other wide receivers that I would have been interested in a little bit more than Jalen Polk. So that I think that's a little bit questionable. I see what they're doing, and the fact that they came back and got Javon Baker later, I think makes some sense. That maybe they didn't look at a guy like A.D. Mitchell in the 2nd round, but I do think A.D. Mitchell's ceiling and upside is higher than a guy like Jalen Polk. But they got that high ceiling swing later on with Javon Baker. If we take this to the New York Football Jets, they made a 1-pick trade to move back one from 10 to 11 with the Minnesota Vikings. They took Penn State offensive tackle Olufashinu. In the 3rd round, they take at 65 Western Kentucky wide receiver Malachi Corley. In the 4th round at 134, they took Wisconsin running back Braylon Allen. In the 5th round at pick 171, they take Florida State quarterback Jordan Travis. At 173 in the 5th round, they took South Dakota State running back Isaiah Davis. In the 5th round at 176, they took Canada cornerback Quantez Stiggers. In the 7th round, 257, they took Alabama safety Jalen Key. Favorite picks for the Jets is a couple guys that really stood out. I love the Olufashinu pick. It wasn't that long ago. Most people thought he was going to be a top 5, top 6 pick. And then the quarterbacks and the wide receivers kind of pushed these guys down. J.C. Latham jumped over him. I thought Joe Alt was the only tackle that should have been taken ahead of Olufashinu. So I thought the Jets, not only getting him at 11, picking up picks to move back one, I thought it was a really good process by the Jets there. I love the Malachi Corley pick. Listen, he's not a prototypical true wide receiver, but I think he brings so much explosiveness and playmaking ability in terms of how you're going to use him. He really is a Debo-like player. Now, listen, that gets thrown around a lot, so we'll see. But I think there's a way for him to be a really important part of that offense. He adds a different element to what they have. They have their true number one wide receiver. They have their stud running back. I think Corley, they have Mike Williams for 1 year. I think Malachi Corley adds an interesting dynamic, a guy you can do jet sweeps with, a guy you can put in motion and do different things, run bubble screens. And I think he's a playmaker once he gets the ball in his hands. So I personally like the Malachi Corley pick. I thought Jordan Travis was an interesting developmental day 3 pick. If he doesn't get hurt and they play in the college football playoffs, I think Jordan Travis could have found his way maybe to be a 3rd or 4th round pick. So I do like that as a developmental quarterback prospect on day 3. Value pick, Quintez Stiggers out of Canada in round 5. If he hits, I think he's got starter traits. So I understand why he fell to the 5th round. I would have been willing to gamble once he got to day 3. So if he would have went somewhere, mid round 4, late round 4, I would have thought it was appropriate value. Instead, he goes all the way at pick 176. And then my questionable decisions is they drafted Breece Hall 2 years ago. They took Izzy Abercrombie last year. What are they doing wasting a 4th round pick and a 5th round pick on 2 more running backs? I just don't understand the process. You want to tell me one? Fine. Every year there's always going to be different, interesting guys on day 3 that fall that you could have as a top 5 or top 6 back in the class because not many backs go early. So you just kind of keep adding to the position. And maybe they didn't love what they saw in Abercrombie, so they said, okay, we could see an upgrade there on Breece Hall. But 2 in the 4th and the 5th round, that means you're either one of those guys or Israel Abercrombie, who you took in the 4th round last year. One of those guys is going to get cut and maybe try to sneak on the practice squad because you're not going to keep, I don't think, 4 running backs. Allen and Davis are not really special teams type guys. Either is Israel Abercrombie. So I have a lot of questions on what the Jets did there with the running backs. Not sure why they felt the need to do that at the running back position. But I do like Fashanu. I do like Malachi Corley. So there's some stuff I liked about the Jets there. I did have some questions about some of it. In terms of my AFC East draft rankings, I put the Dolphins up at 1. I really like what the Dolphins did in terms of value picks, in terms of filling needs, taking best player available. They're my favorite draft in the class. Number 2 is the Patriots. I applaud them for taking Drake May. Got him some playmakers in, Jalen Polk and Javonte Baker and Jaheim Bell. They tried to get some more fortification on the offensive line. I didn't love the Caden Wallace pick, but there must be something in him that they really like. I thought it was a round or round and a half too early on him, but they saw the parts that they really had to attack and they went after it. I have the Jets at number 3 because I do really like the Olufashinu and the Malachi Corley pick. I think those are guys that could be immediate impact players for them, and I like the upside of Quintez Stiggers. And then last, the Buffalo Bills. I like the Keon Coleman pick and the Cole Bishop pick, but but they're right there with the Jets. Ranking the Jets and Buffalo were very hard for me. It was clearly Miami 1, clearly New England 2, and then the order of the Jets and Buffalo could swap at 3-4. I ended up going with the Jets because I do think them taking Fashanu was the right decision over Brock Bowers. So I applaud them for making that move. Where on the Bills side, they chose to trade down twice, let Kansas City get their wide receiver of choice, and that was kind of what pushed me towards the Jets over the Bills. So there it is, guys. My thoughts on every single team in the AFC East. Favorite picks, value picks, questionable picks, full overview of the team. Next up on the docket is going to be the AFC North. If you have missed any of the previous 4 episodes, please get back and check them out. If you're looking for more of our content, get over to the website, S2S Football, fastest and easiest way to get there. Check out our premium content tab. And for $9.99, you can get all of our premium notebooks. The rankings notebook is the one right now of most emphasis, with our dynasty rookie rankings being updated constantly. We're going to add IDP rookie rankings. We're going to add positional overall dynasty rankings. And then you also get the scouting notebook and the draft projections notebook as well. Still a lot of value to be had there. The scouting notebook has detailed player profiles on almost 100 players, strengths, fundamental areas, developmental areas, how they win, NFL role, fantasy spin. And then the draft projections notebook, while the draft is come and gone, it's still got thoughts on almost 400 players, a snapshot of how they win, and some developmental areas with all their combine measurements and stuff like that. So, on behalf of our sound tech engineer, David Nakano, and myself, thank you for joining us, and we look forward next time taking you from Saturday to Sunday.